All right. First things first, we're all being blessed by Zach Tan. So I seriously stress out until I get my blessing. So thank you, Zach Tan. He knows how to put my soul at ease. So anyway, this is John and Tonic. This is going to be a semi-regular thing. Whenever we see movies, the problem is I'm always seeing older movies, and so Tonic's been asking me about new. It was very rare that I saw two new movies in a row, like Fantastic Four and Superman. But while we were in the movie theaters to see the Superman movie, they showed a trailer for the 30th anniversary of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original movie, 1990. And I said to my wife, I've never seen that. And she looked at me like everybody looks at me when I say that. And my wife didn't know about my history of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So she said, let's go see it. She was all excited. She goes, I haven't seen it since I was 18, since I was in the movies. And I was like, all right. And she bought the tickets right then and there on her phone while we were watching the trailer. And spoiler alert, I loved it. So what do you want? Before I pontificate more, this is Tonic Mole. Tonic Mole is my buddy. He's a longtime guest of my channel. And we'll do this semi-regular. I don't want to give a promise that I can't fulfill. But Tonic Mole makes comics also. He's got the Saving the World Omnibus, 12 issues of one of my favorite comics, Saving the World. Saving the World is so good that I asked if I could commission artwork from Tonic Mole, and Tonic Mole said, no, you cannot, and then mailed me a page.
That's right. It was already done. I can't stand the pressure.
Yeah, he was just like, I work, schmirk. Here, take this. And it's hanging up in my room over there. And you got another project. You got On Call Heroes.
Yes. So the Saving the World Omnibus, we are just shy of $8,000. We need someone to back that thing to get us over $8,000 just so I can sleep happy. So it has to happen during this show.
Oh, there you go. Pressure is on.
Yeah, and then
Tonic Mole doesn't like pressure on himself, but he don't mind pressure on you guys.
No, I'll dish it out all day long. I just don't like it myself. Then we have On Call Heroes #2, which is a spin-off where I write it and Jacob Sebesta, he draws it. And it's a lot of the same characters as Saving the World, but just a slightly different take on them. And it's currently funding, and we need all the help we can get. We're doing pretty good. Okay, $3,400, and so we're wanting to get to 37,000 before the show's over.
There you go.
Ideally, we'll take like 3450.
Well, for those of you watching the show, I'm not gonna assume you all know who I am. Maybe you just stumbled across this because we said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. But I also make comic books. I have a comic book called Heroic Tales. Issue 2 is currently funding on Fund My Comic. I have 176 backers on Fund My Comic, and on Kickstarter I have 26 backers. So that's 202 backers altogether. Right? Is my math correct? Well, I had 300. It's really weird how it's round numbers, but I had 300 total backers between 3 platforms for issue #1. So I would love to get to 301 backers. So 98 backers short for my goal. The money is nice, but I want backers. You know what I mean? Like, I've already paid for the issue or next issue. I laid out the money for the first issue, and that goes for the second. I do it the opposite of everybody else. Like, other people now are raising a campaign to pay for the campaign that they should have shipped already. I'm raising money for a campaign for my next one. So my next campaign is already funded. You know what I mean? So there we go. So, guys, I just made a new deal with another creator, being top secret until everything is formalized. And we got another character, another story being written. And, I want to spoil everything. Tonic, how do you keep secrets?
I don't have no friends.
There you go. I'm gonna. Well, I managed to piss off a lot of people the last 2 months.
You're getting there.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I'll piss off the few remaining people that still associate with me pretty soon. I'm on. Yeah. So there you go. Tonic Bowl and myself have two completely different histories when it comes to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm a little older, and when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1 came out, I was working in the Incredible Pulp in Baldwin, Long Island, and Larry, the owner, pointed out the comic to me, and I was livid. I was like, this is so stupid. It's a cash grab. They're making fun of Marvel. They don't have any talent. They're making fun of Frank Miller. If they had any talent, they wouldn't need to goof on Frank Miller. They're making fun of the X-Men, blah, 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 blah. And I was just self-righteous, holy, and I put the comic down. I call that my $50,000 mistake. I literally had it in my hands. And the way I am, my wife will back me up. I'm stubborn. If I make a decision for good or for bad, I'm sticking with it. I've got that from my mother. I got my ability to eat Italian food from my father and stubbornness from my mother. I didn't get my father's wonderful charm and my mother's ability to get things done. I got that. But that's what I got. So I refused. And the more popular the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it would, what is it called? The sunken cost fallacy. I was just like, no, I made a decision. I'm going to stick with it.
Right.
And it wasn't until Tonic Bowl we were talking, and the face you made when I said that I've never read a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and then you said one thing that really hit me in the gut. You have a comic book channel and you haven't read any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
It's insane.
Yeah, and it shamed me. It shamed me. So I went at the beginning and I got a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1, but all I could afford was the 5th printing. Like, let's be realistic. So I got the 5th printing of #1. I got the 1st printing of #2, and I got #3 right here, 1st printing. And this just came today. 1st print of Raphael.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm on. I may be slow as a turtle, but I'm on.
Now,
spoiler alert, issue 1 and issue 2 were excellent. Excellent. So I apologize to Eastman and Laird. I apologize to Larry. I apologize to Tonic Bowl. And I apologize to comic book fandom as a whole. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so far, I'm sure there's bad comics. I'm sure later on somebody's going to say, the Mirage issue 14 was terrible. But as of right now, I'm really, really enjoying it. So that's my story. Tonic, you tell your story about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay. So I'm a young man. Like, I'm not elder.
He's young and viral.
Right, exactly. I'm young and gone viral. So for me, I'm a little bit younger. So I was way too young when the original comic. I was 3 years old. So then I was about 7 or 8 as the cartoon was coming out. So I was prime age to catch Turtle Fever, and so I started watching the cartoon, loved the cartoon, and bought all.
Keep talking. I forgot to grab something.
Yeah, bought all the action figures and all that type stuff. But sadly enough, my first comic that was Ninja Turtles was my first was a trade of the first 3 issues of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Mirage Studios. But then I collected a lot of the Archie comics, and so become a fanatic. And then the movie came out and all that type of stuff. So I was caught up in Turtle Mania real hard. I had the VHS and the cassette tape of their Coming Out of Their Shells tour. So I listened to the Ninja Turtles sing soft pop music, and I thought it was amazing. And oh man, and it's funny because the scale of Turtle Mania is unheard of today, because there's no way that many people could be fanatical about one thing, right? There's just too much.
Right.
And there are people to this day clamoring for Hostess to bring back the turtle pies. They were fruit pies, but not fruit. It was like a pudding, and then there was a green.
Yeah, it was filled with green radioactive ooze.
Yeah, something like that. They were amazing. And also, So there's so many of these food
Did they
products.
taste like turtle or did they taste like fruit?
It was no, it was like a vanilla pudding inside, but then painted with like an icing that's green. But you,
I remember them too.
yeah, they were freaking awesome. And then they had like um, they were little, kind of like the fishes, the little fish crackers,
Yeah.
like that, except for I can't remember what shape they were, but they were pizza flavored and they were Ninja Turtles. They were freaking awesome. But
Was there a breakfast cereal?
they had a breakfast cereal, but this was just like a little snack thing, like salted cracker type things, but they were pizza flavored and they were freaking awesome. So, anyways, moving fast forward. So I collected Archie comics and only had a trade that was 1 through 3 of the issues of Mirage. And then later I found out, like once I met like Jim Lawson and stuff, um, Archie Comics was always the same guys. So it had a little bit different style because it was in color and it was based more on the cartoon canon for at least the first like 6 or 7 issues. Then the Mirage guys just diverged off on just a variant canon, but just as wild and crazy as um, the Black and White series, which I believe by then had ran its course. It was over. So all the Mirage guys were like, "What do we do now?" And Peter was like, "I don't know. Draw an Archie comic." So they started. All those guys just jumped over and started doing that. And while Peter and Eastman, they were off dealing with movies and cartoons and all this. So they had a studio of guys just going, "What do we do now?" And they're like, "I don't know. Try this." And they would just start working independently. So, anyways, so I also highly like recommend if someone likes the original series to also check out Archie. It'll start out and you'll go, well, this is the cartoon, but I think by issue 6 or 7, it might be 10 or so, they slowly diverge from the canon of the cartoon, and by like 20 or 30, it is like off on its own wild tangent, and Jim Lawson and a lot of those guys have fully taken over and really abandoned any semblance of, oh, this is based on a cartoon. And I think that was because the main series had ended, so they were like, well, this is the new Ninja Turtle series, and so it kind of oddly enough gets a little dark. But so I was super obsessed with Ninja Turtles as a kid, and all the movies and stuff. And then once I got a little bit older is when I backed up and really started collecting the old issues that I'd only read the first 3 for the longest time. And which, depending how exactly old you are and when you encountered the Ninja Turtles has evolved so many times into completely new things that it will really change your perspective of what you encountered first. And so for me, yeah, it was the cartoon and Archie comics and stuff. And then I retroactively went back and caught and read all the Mirage Studios when I was a little bit older. And now you said, okay, those first 3, I will say, yeah, the Ninja Turtles Mirage Studios, it's till about issue 30, I would say. They're, hmm?
We talked. There was a role playing game.
I see.
Yeah, I never got the role playing game.
1 through 30 of the original series is some of the best comic I've ever written. At that point, Eastman and Laird were too busy with making billions of dollars. Random artists and writers would come in and take it and just almost non-canon, like the entire tone and story would change depending on the creator. And it did that until almost the end, around issue 50 or something. All of a sudden, Eastman, Laird, Jim Lawson, and all them jump back in and do City at War, I believe it was, and that was the final mini series type deal of the Turtles. So that in between, hey, it's fun, but it's not what the Turtles was before. But like you have Raphael, one of the best comics, Ninja Turtle comics I've ever read was Michelangelo's micro series. So his one issue, same idea, but it was Michelangelo. It was interesting that, you know, for the cartoon, he's all like "Cowabunga, dude." He's like the free loving one. In the comics, each character is similar to the cartoon, but in a much more complex, interesting way. So, you know, Michelangelo isn't the Cowabunga party dude. He's the one with more of a heart. So it was mainly about him taking care of a kitten, his little micro series. But
Okay.
anyways,
It's funny because I still, even after seeing the movie and reading literally only two Ninja Turtle comics,
yeah.
I still get confused which turtle is which. You know,
Jesus.
especially in the comic series because it's black and white. They don't have the, you know, like I
Right.
try to look for the weapons. Like I do know that uh, uh, it is Michelangelo with the nunchucks, right? I'm not going to embarrass
Yeah.
myself in front of. Yes, so that I do know because nunchucks were the cool cowabunga weapon, you know, and Pete's. But I I was surprised by how dark the first issue and the second issue were.
Mhm.
Like I said, I assumed it was aimed by kids, which is kind of hypocritical because I'm a big proponent of all ages comics.
Right.
I thought Ninja Turtles was aimed at kids. There's a difference between all ages comics and comics aimed at kids. So this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles really, I mean, because it was funny animals. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so like at the time, I'm trying to think that there was a Gru the Wanderer, which was cartoony.
Yeah.
And that was all ages, but it wasn't necessarily for kids, although kids could laugh at ships blowing up and, you know, and whatever. But there was Stan Sakai's Usagi Yojimbo, another comic that I absolutely avoided because I thought it was a kid's funny animal book.
Right.
And the funny thing is, man, do I love Stan's. That is probably my favorite running series of all time.
Yeah.
It's so good, you know. And
Well,
whenever I recommend that to people, I go get past the fact that it's a rabbit.
right. Right. Yeah.
The storytelling, the lore, and so it's funny that the Ninja Turtles and Usagi have a shared crossover path.
Yeah. Then they all come from a similar. So Cerebus, I believe, was first, and that is an aardvark, but it's a parody of Conan.
Right.
But then quickly becomes its own thing entirely.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I love the first 25 issues of Cerebus. I
Yeah.
burned through them, and now I'm at like issue 86, and I will literally read anything else before I. It is a slog. No.
Yeah, Slug is a perfect. He got into a thing. I think that once you get through, like, finally get to the end, it's an amazing, like, masterpiece. But man, there's a slog of just. He clearly was kind of spinning off into. Oh, but you know, then Ninja Turtles came, like, you know, inspired by Cerebus, and then you have the pretty early Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #8 is the crossover with Cerebus, and then of course Usagi Yojimbo, most people think is a Ninja Turtles character because they reached out to the creator and said, "Hey, we want to do this thing," and he was like, "Well, you know, I'm in Japan, so you do whatever you want in America," and so. You know, Usagi Yojimbo got his own action figure. He was in the cartoon. He's been on countless Ninja Turtles series, even as the canons change, they bring him in and crossovered endlessly to an extent where, yeah, most Americans think he's a Ninja Turtle character.
Yeah, didn't Savage Dragon?
Oh, a lot, yeah. Like the early 90s, Savage Dragon and Ninja Turtles crossed over a lot. And then, is it Eric Larson that created Savage Dragon?
Yes.
He did. It's called Volume 3 of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but it was published by Image. So he went to Peter Laird and said, "Hey, I want to do a Volume 3," and Peter said, "Fine." And so he did the Volume 3, and I think with Jim Lee drawing, and but it took Ninja Turtles in a completely different direction. And then it was retcon. So once Peter and Jim Lawson came back for Volume 4, they ignored the Image series. But it was interesting in its own thing.
Yeah. So, like you said, this was I'm trying to remember, and my memory is dodgy. The comics came out, and I'm trying to think how long before it just exploded.
It was shockingly quick because their first issue came out and it was a nothing thing, right? They killed the main villain because they thought they wouldn't get a second issue, and it sold 150,000 issues, and they were like, "Wait, what?" So they all of a sudden start fumbling around to do a second and third issue and all that, but they only did 3 issues a year because it was just two guys. So 1983, 84, then 85 cartoon deal. So that's why if you look at the cartoon, all those weird decisions were because that's all that anybody knew at that point. So April O'Neil, why is she wearing a mechanic suit, like a mechanic's overalls? It's because in the first issue she was an engineer. And
right, yeah, that confused me. I was going to bring that up later. In issue 2 of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles original series, they debut April O'Neil, and I don't think they say O'Neil. They just say April, and she's a lab tech assistant to
Right.
a crazy murdering maniac in a surprisingly dark story
Mm-hmm.
of a guy. Spoiler alert for a 40, 30-year-old comic. He designs these Mouser robots, and they're just going to burrow through Manhattan and knock down buildings unless they pay him money. And April says, well, why don't you just sell these blueprints? You know, the guy goes, because I just want to kill people.
Right.
Yeah, he's a total psychopath.
Baxter Stockman.
Right. And this is what and surprisingly, like, this is what I talk about when I say kids can handle gross, horrible, terrible, fearful things. They you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to, when you make a series for kids, or all ages rather, you can have stuff like, basically, guys like he was hoping that they wouldn't pay him the money.
Right.
And he didn't want them. He was already rich because he's building. And I also like the nod to the robots also build each other.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was pretty clever. Like, these are, for lack, basically they're drones.
Mm-hmm.
They're drones, and they spend part of their time building each other, building new drones, and then they go out and they destroy, and then they take the debris and repurpose it to build. It was, and then April, like I was talking about, she's the lab tech, and I actually stopped and I looked up on Wikipedia. Is this April O'Neil? Because I don't think they said O'Neil in the first, but she's a reporter.
Right.
So that's just me, you know. Now, I was told that she was made a reporter in that movie that we're going to discuss.
No, the cartoon.
Oh, the cartoon, she was a reporter first.
Yeah. And so the movie adopted some things from the cartoon, but was mainly based on the original comic. Right. So the one thing, kind of like you're saying, you get them the Ninja Turtles confused. Well, so the movie maker said, no, the different colored mask is actually a terrific.
It makes sense. Right. Now, you know, I don't mind if they change things for movies, and they have a logical reason. You know, like, you know, I get mad when they just change things for the sake of identity politics or current dayism and stuff like that. But I do think giving them distinct colors is a really good idea. You know, like, usually you told them, or I guess in the original series, you told them apart by the weapons. Right. They were drawn the same, right? Right.
Yeah. And in the comic, it was more like, it often didn't matter as much, right? They weren't so super individuals, right? So
by issue 2, they're all the same person, just holding different weapons.
They're the Turtles. And then if one is doing something smarter, you go, oh, that's Donatello. But often they were kind of a very similar template with hints of what the cartoon and movies bring out, where they're like, well, they need to be more bombastic so you can sell 4 action figures, not 1 4 times. That type of idea.
You sell 1 in an accessory pack. Yeah.
Right.
The cartoon was the comic rather was surprisingly graphic.
Yeah.
You know, Shredder was a menace.
Mm-hmm.
and the fight scenes and they killed him. And like I said, I don't know. You would probably know if Eastman and Lard thought kids would ever pick this up. I think they thought that was going to be a super niche thing at best of just kids who go to comic book stores. And even back in 1980, whatever it was, 84 was the first issue.
3, I think.
Yeah, back in 83. Even back then, you only went to comic book stores if you were a nerdy comic book kid.
Right.
Like I'm not joking. Like kids would like, it was almost like going into a porn store. Like you'd look around.
Right.
You know, the cool football kids aren't like you didn't like when we were talking at school. Like see at the comic book store because like it was Revenge of the Nerds. You would get noogies. You would get teased. Or the very worst thing is the girls wouldn't talk to you.
Right. I think their intention was for 15 and over, so a slightly more later teen comic, and weren't really worrying about kids at all because.
Obviously, it was like you read Daredevil because the origin is tied to Daredevil, and the Foot Clan is a goof on the Hand in Daredevil. Right. Splinter is Stick.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like. They obviously like now I realize it was all made with love of Frank Miller's Daredevil rather than goofing on it, And
and if you look at some of Kevin Eastman's art, a little bit later in the 80s, you see he's going heavy into Frank Miller. There was one comic where I was like, that looks like it was drawn by Frank Miller.
Right.
He kind of started to adapt more into that.
Right. If the comics that I held up, you could, where are they now? How do they shift positions? But you could see, I should bring it up, like influences, like it's not as polished or as dare say as good as like, but I see like Ronin,
right,
one of Frank Miller's lesser known series, in this artwork. So it like when Frank Miller was kind of doing anime before anime was cool, Eastman and Lara were copying Frank Miller. Copying anime before anime was cool. This is all homages and love. That's what I always say. If you rip off something, Tonic, well, here's something we could. If you rip off something but you do it with love and respect, it's an homage.
Right.
If you rip off something just and you don't love it and respect it, then it's a rip off.
Right. And hiding it. They never, they were like, oh, this is obviously
right. Yeah, I wear my influences on my sleeve, oh, Patriarch is just a Superman ripoff. You think so? Oh, excellent, thank you.
Yeah. And what's interesting is if I say the Foot Clan, everybody goes Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. If I say the Hand, they have
the homage became more popular than the original.
Or you go Stick. They're like, what? I go, Splinter. Oh, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles! Right? They overshadowed the source material.
Yeah. Did they ever explain like how Splinter, like he was able to copy the moves of his master Yoshi? Does that come later? Or is it just he does?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And see, okay, let's segue into the movie.
Okay.
That would be where I'd start. The funniest thing was I was a kid watching the cartoon. Now, for the cartoon, they said, that's a little weird that this rat why was this rat so intelligent already?
Right.
And so they said, no. It is Hamato Yoshi. He turns into Splinter, not his rat turns into Splinter. And it made a lot of sense that this guy is a martial artist, but then mutates part rat. That's how he can teach these kids. So then when I watched the movie, not really of reading Splinter's origin from the comic, I go, what? And the little puppet rat going, hey. I was like, what is this? Come to find out, it was true to the source material, and that yes, they gave winks at the cartoon, but the guy who wanted to make this movie didn't care much for he was older. He didn't care about the cartoon. He loved the comic. And
Yeah,
so
and
that's what he wanted to
I'm
adapt.
so glad I read the first 2 issues before I saw that
Yeah.
movie. Oh yeah,
And it is interesting that the first movie is basically the first issue, and then they took a few various issues from 1 through 20 and merged them into that first issue to make a full movie. But largely everything in it has something to do with the Ninja Turtles did get defeated and retreat to April's family's farmhouse. They did make a big triumphant return to New York City. So, and that's Return to New York is one of their biggest storylines. They put Return to New York in there, but the beginning, middle, and end is just the first issue. It's that they said, well, we need something more. And they
yeah.
go,
We got to fill out. We got to make it. A comic book is 20 minutes worth of reading.
right,
Yeah.
right. And so they instead of just adding random crap, they went back and looked at those later issues that are much heavier. Like Jim Lawson was doing more stuff at that time, and those guys were taking it even more seriously than Eastman and Laird. And so, one of my favorite issues, I want to say it's 26. Um, it's just about April, um, Kelly Jones, and the Turtles uh, kind of being disenfranchised. Everything went horrible. I think it is after everything falls apart. And they're on a little boat going down the river. And there's not a lot of story to it. It's just all about the emotional baggage the turtles have. And April talking about how it would feel to be the only four of your entire species, right? How alone the turtles would be. And it was all of this really wild, deep stuff. Well, they took that and infused it where you have some heavy emotional stuff in the first Turtles, and I mean it's not philosophical, but the Turtles' relationships with each other, especially Leonardo and Raphael, and then when Splinter gets abducted, all these things are handled in a much more heavier tone than what a kids movie would be.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, 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 One of the things I was because my wife and I we saw the movie, and then of course when we go to movies, we make a night out of it. We make a date night, So we go to the movies, we go to dinner. So as we're walking to the car, we're both like, we got to get pizza, right? We just we got to get pizza. So we went to a pizzeria and we just sat and talked about the movie. And I said, one of my favorite things about the movie, out of all the things to love about the movie, my favorite thing about the movie is they took it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
The scene, like there's a couple of at the beginning of the movie when Splinter says we have to meditate, and then they do tequila.
Right.
I was just like, oh my god, this movie's gonna suck. Like that,
right.
that was the one thing that really got me. Like, oh my god, that was just the worst. Like everything about that sucked. That scene was like just cringe. But besides that 15 seconds of the movie, they committed like the scene that got me was April O'Neil is talking to the other female reporter on her show, and she's talking about the history of the Foot Clan, and she's just delivering total nonsense, but delivering it with earnest, deadpan, like total committing to the script, committing to the character, and I was just like, that's it. Like, you got me, because if this was a modern movie, the other woman would have looked at the camera, foot,
right,
and mugged it up, you know what I mean, and
right.
did some like goofy dismissal, and then I know they call themselves but like they just sold it. They sold every hokey, silly thing. Like one of my favorite things is in the original Captain America movie. I was waiting for it. I was like, and to me, one of the silliest lines of all of Marvel comics is when Steve Rogers is going through the super soldier product, and then they say, and then we shot him with Vita rays.
Right.
What's a Vita ray? Don't explain it. Don't mention it again.
Right.
So I'm like, and then they had Dr. Erskine just look right at it, and he goes, and then we shot him with Vita rays, and just delivered the line.
Yeah.
Ernest sold it. Didn't cringe when he said it, and I was like, they're taking this. That's the difference between modern Marvel and the original Marvel movies. They committed to the, and the Ninja Turtles committed to the bit. I like another scene that really won me over was Casey Jones and April. I mean, by this point I was sold, but this is the scene where they're in the house and they quip it at each other, and it's obvious they're attracted to each other.
Right.
But they're both tough warriors or whatever. They don't want to admit it either to themselves, or maybe they're playing a game and they want to see who breaks first. Like, there's so much to read because that's the way young adults really are.
Right.
You mean, like, if you got game, you don't just walk up to them and go, you want to go out with me? You make it a cat and mouse game. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And these are two survivors, two tough guys, and they're doing this and then he just starts massaging her shoulders.
Right.
And I really thought that was a sexy scene, like not trashy, not lavicious or whatever these words. I'm sure I'm using the word wrong, but like it was like a tender, honest, like the best sense of the word, like a sexy scene, like
Right.
And I don't know, you were a kid when you watched it. Did you be like, love it? No, like it made it worked.
I wasn't that type of kid, really. I was all into romance and movies, and so. But yeah, and especially as an adult, it's the complicated dynamics. So like, he goes to Rubber Soldier and she's like, and then he shoves her down.
Right. Yeah.
There's risk in handling the scene like that, but that pays off. And that whole segment when the turtles have to flee to her deal, the dynamics between Michelangelo and Donatello, to where they're kind of the more childish ones. They feel the things, but they're a little more joking, whereas Leonardo is taking things much more seriously. And you see that with Leonardo watching over Raphael when he's in the bathtub.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
And then you have Casey Jones and Donatello trying to get the pickup running. They
talk about Gilligan's Island.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They let the movie slow down.
Well, yeah, that 20-minute segment was just character development.
Exactly.
And none of it developed the plot, none of it pushed the story forward. It was just we have these cool, interesting characters, and we're just gonna not wallow. The wallow implies negative, but we're just gonna envelop ourselves in character, and it really, really worked.
Yeah,
like somebody mentioned the campfire scene. They're all
right. Yeah, and they're Michelangelo, and it's kind of funny because I almost feel the contrast of the cartoon and the comic, to where you have Donatello and Michelangelo joking with roasting the marshmallows, and Leonardo says, "Stop it," and they both go, "Okay," and stop. And then it's right into the more heavy tone of the comics. And so there was some of that contrasting there, but it made the merging of all of that, like, elevated everything, because you had, Judith Hogue played April O'Neil, and it's hard to say the guy's name. Was it Elias Koteas?
Yeah. Played, has he done anything like, because to me it was just like, we're going to get younger, better shaped Robert De Niro.
Right. Yeah, and he has a TV show and stuff like that now. Certainly his biggest role in movies at the time was obviously Casey Jones, but then he goes on to do, of course, you look at the guy and you go, he's going to be on Law and Order pretty much, that type of thing. And
I like Judith Hogue, however you say her name. Like, that's during the movie, I just went to my wife and I said, I like her.
Right.
I think she was because now April O'Neil is like a Megan Fox supermodel
Right.
type. But Judith Hogue was like attractive, like in your like, this is what your wife or your buddy's hot wife or
Right. Right.
your sexy school teacher looks like,
Yeah.
or legitimately that woman on the news.
Right.
Back in the like, she
Exactly.
was a good looking woman, and I'm a man, flesh and blood. There's a couple of scenes she's in her shorts, and I'm like, she's got nice thighs, she's got nice legs, but she wasn't that va 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 voo knockout that they would cast today. Or
Right.
let's be realistic. Today they would cast Lizzo, but you know what I mean, like 5 years ago. But I liked the choice of her.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked that the Ninja Turtles, they were attracted to her, but they didn't know how to deal with it because
Right.
first off, they're turtles, they're not human, and then they're teenagers. And then when they saw Casey Jones and her having a relationship, I immediately thought, oh, Casey Jones is C blocking them all,
Right.
and they were just like, whoa, cheering their buddy on. I'm like, all right, the turtles are cool. They do it.
Right. And see, this is the funny thing. Back with Peter Laird, his big thing was the Ninja Turtles would not be attracted to a human. Now, they play it in the movie a little bit like that, where they're like, oh, look at that hot lady. But his whole deal was always, no, that's not something. I don't know why exactly, but, and so, yeah, they go into that to some degree to where they're like, no, they're not chasing after April or nothing. And with both of the main actors of Casey Jones and April, not only did they take it very seriously and give very controlled performances.
They were earnest in their roles.
Yeah, they look what they're standing next to. It would have been the push for them to go extreme when you got guys in these giant rubber animatronic suits would be extreme, and they said no. This is serious. This is a serious movie.
There's two examples that I could bring up that this reminded that my wife and I were talking about. The first one is Army of Darkness. Bruce Campbell, and the director Sam Raimi, he told all the actors, this is a really difficult story to sell, and the only way it's going to work is if everybody commits to the bit and is earnest. You are medieval guys being attacked. You think it's the apocalypse. You think it's the rapture. This is an existential crisis. And Bruce Campbell is Bruce Campbell.
Right.
That's only way. And if you watch that movie, everybody sells their line as if they were going to die. And it makes a contrast. That makes the humor work. Now, if they were just like, here's your thunder boomstick, now go boom, boom, that movie would have flopped. That movie would have been terrible.
Everybody in the cast needed to be the straight man.
Right.
Bruce Campbell is so over the top when he turns it to 11. It'll take everybody else to make it seem like he's the only crazy person.
Right.
And so the impossibility in 1990 that the Ninja Turtles could exist like in that form, where it's this serious, dramatic action movie, it was impossible. It wouldn't happen today. They'd never happen.
It would all be CGI. I'm glad you brought that up because I forget exactly what scene, but I think it was Splinter was coming back and Splinter's being. I noticed Splinter didn't move too much, so I guess that animatronic or that so he was sitting down lecturing and then chained to the wall and then being carried. And then how they put it in the story is brilliant. Yeah. But they were bringing up and they did a close up. I forget which turtle, but the lips moved and the eyes got wet, and I got choked up over a freaking puppet.
Yeah,
they were human enough and the lips moved enough, and I looked it up. Apparently, there was actors, controllers, they had wires on their faces, and when they moved their face, so they were acting.
Right.
Yeah, it was unbelievable 30 years ago. Yeah. And I wish movies today would be more, practical effect friendly.
What we found, I think that what was kind of discovered, Jim Henson was a once in a 300 to 500 year genius, because Ninja Turtles 2 was his last movie. but he died
Did he die?
during. Yeah,
Died. Okay.
and other people took over trying to just replicate exactly what he did with Ninja Turtles 3. It didn't work. They couldn't make the mouths enunciate like they did. The eyes didn't look as realistic. Nothing worked like it used to. And they've never figured it out since then. But that's because people took for granted the talent of Jim Henson and who's the guy that designed the Predator and made the Predator suit?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Um, that'll drive me crazy. Stan Winston. Stan Winston, who did the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, he did the Predator, he did the aliens in the second Alien movie and stuff. Nobody's been able to reproduce their work, and the fact a lot of Ninja Turtles is because a master created all those special effects. And so yeah, we'll never see something like that again because he passed away. He was the one person who knew how to build that stuff. And when he passes away, well, it's over. But how much those guys in rubber suits could beat any CG they've tried since then. Like it was just perfect. Like the turtles felt so real.
Well, yeah, the actors like April and Casey, they were acting next to like goofballs in costumes, but they were real people.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the suits, I'm sure, were making faces even when the cameras weren't on them because the technicians weren't just eating a sandwich. You know, they were probably making facial expressions.
Yeah.
Reacting to everything. So the actors had something to react to. Like, what's her name? Queen Amidala, Natalie Portman. She says in a lot of the sequel movies, it was just her in front of a green screen.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there wasn't even somebody there. And she goes, an actor wants to react and act with the person. Like the biggest example is, I think, the first like all green screen movie that I could think of is Sky Captains in the World of Tomorrow.
I think that is the first.
Oh, I wanted to like that movie. I love the look of it. I love the concept of it. But when you watched it, none of the actors had any earnestness. Like you could just tell they were just standing there talking lines.
Right.
Like nothing. There was nobody sold anything because there was nothing there.
Right.
Like I say when I make a comic book, the art should convey as much information as possible, and then I put in dialogue balloons to convey the information that I can't do through the art. That's the way my philosophy is comic books. With CGI, it should be physical, practical stuff as much as possible, and CGI is only there to convey what they just it's impractical to do or whatever. Right. That is the way it should be. Oh, I wanted to finish the second time I heard when I like selling stuff was in the original Doctor Who with the first Doctor, whose name is escaping me at the moment, but the old crotchety old man Doctor back in 1961. There was an episode where they went to an insect planet, the Zarbis, and even my wife, I remember she was vacuuming at the time when I was watching it. She stopped and looked at it. It's really hokey because this is cardboard sets, you know, shoestring bugs. You could literally see the strings as the bee people are flying around. And there's ant people and there's bee people. And one of the actors, the doctor whose name is going to drive me nuts, he scolded one of the actors who was dressed up as an ant person. And he said, "What are you doing?" And the guy's like, "You know, I went to Oxford University. I'm a BBC actor. I've done Shakespeare, and now I'm prancing around with leotards on as an ant going bzz, 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 bzz." And he goes, "Did you accept the role?" He goes, "Yeah." Right. He goes, "Then commit to the bit. You're an actor. You're a professional. He goes, "The less the special effects, the more you got to sell it."
Right.
He goes, "So relish this chance that you are going to convince people that you're an insect from an alien world, because if it was all great special effects, you don't have to act."
Right.
And I love that. You know, I love that story. I love that commit to the bit. Like, I know those original Doctor Who's are kind of a chore to watch.
Yeah.
But the acting is top notch.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I love, and that's the way I felt about this Ninja Turtle movie. Like you said, it's April O'Neil and Casey Jones and next to him are 3 5'2" Japanese guys in a rubber outfit
Right.
prancing around, you know what I mean? And they sold it.
Yeah.
Never once, with the exception the tequila scene, I still believed it. I just didn't appreciate the humor, but I still believed it. I was never taken out of the movie going, "Oh God, that was a stupid line." These guys are doing that winking at the camera stuff. Like just accept it. That the modern Marvel does. I was really, really, really invested in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's what I've been saying. Commit to the bit.
Yeah.
I will say, like Doctor Strange, I was so scared going into Doctor Strange because I'm like, how are they going to take Ditko and turn Ditko into a believable movie, especially about magic?
Right.
Magic is a tough, and that was, I got no problem saying up until Endgame, Marvel movies were mostly on point.
Yeah.
That Doctor Strange movie, they delivered hokey lines, they said the craziest thing, and then the few jokes that they did say were kind of funny. But
right.
Yeah,
and Ninja Turtles is easily the hardest.
But John Douglas, you want to come in? Is it okay if he comes in and talks to Ninja Turtles?
Go for it.
All right. Good. I'll send you an invite on Twitter. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So, Ninja Turtles is by far the hardest source material to adapt into a live action movie. Easy. Doctor Strange and Captain America, though, are up there, to where the fact that MCU pulled those off is pretty amazing. But then you go, yeah, but these guys with an indie movie pulled off the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in 1990. The craziest idea you could possibly have to try to adapt, because it had been so hard, cost so much money, and all the headwinds would be telling you the cartoon is popular, not the comic. Adapt the cartoon. And those guys said, yeah, but no. And Peter Laird said when Kevin Eastman, and the director and writer and producers and stuff went and watched the final cut for the first time, they all just, like, they forgot they didn't know what they were making. They kind of knew, but they were like super amped. But by the time the movie was done, reality had set in that they made this kind of dark, gritty movie. And so they were like, we've fucked up. We're screwed. But then, of course, it comes out and it was the massive hit.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought there. But when I went into the theater, before the movie even started, they had like a mini documentary about the making of the movie.
Yeah.
It was a little spoilery considering I hadn't seen the movie. But they showed like the opening scene where they show like the sewer cap.
Yeah.
And then the camera goes down. That whole set broke away. So that the camera, you know what I mean? Like, and the guy, the one of the camera guys, because the director is gone, he said, "Oh yeah, that was we learned that from watching Orson Welles in what the hell's it, Citizen Kane."
Right.
And I'm like, Citizen Kane's like one of the greatest movies ever made, like innovated camera, and now the Ninja Turtles are using tricks. They use the same subway scene over and over again, and I read up on that. They apparently they didn't have permission to go through the sewers, and thank God, because they already got sick. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, I know Wolverine goes through the sewer. He's got a healing factor. Don't go in the sewer. Batman should be dead by now. Batman's got AIDS or something like that from going through the sewer. What do you got in the sewers? You got raw shit floating around in this. Do not go through the sewers. So they went through a subway, an abandoned that really does exist they film it in a lot of movies because it's a subway that was only used during World War II for the President FDR, because they built it for FDR so that he could come to New York City, give speeches, and then leave without anybody noticing he was in a wheelchair by City Hall. It's actually a beautiful subway, and it's kind of abandoned, homeless people live in it, and but one of the things that made me laugh, it was so authentic. As they're walking through, there's an orange bucket. And as a person who's worked in subways, worked in sewers, works beneath Manhattan, there's always an orange bucket. It is. I don't know if somebody put that there or if it was there and they left it, but I was just like, this is up that these guys know the sewer systems in New York. There's always a Home Depot orange bucket.
Okay, now you obviously haven't seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2,
No, not yet.
Secret of the Ooze.
No.
I will tell you this. Things go off rails almost immediately. So they made an amazing first movie. Sadly, the action figure makers and the cartoons caught up with it. So the second movie is all camp, winking at the camera,
Oh God.
the turtles acting ridiculous. It's pretty rough. The most interesting thing, other than Vanilla Ice singing Go Ninja Go and the Ninja Turtles breakdancing, is that one of the kid that hangs out with the Ninja Turtles was actually the kid in the suit playing Donatello in the first movie. So he got to actually take off the suit and just play a character. And I'd watched something of talking about, because one thing you will notice in all the movies, but as the first one, is they use gimmicks for fighting. So the symbols, and he goes pring around their head, right? And they'll bang their heads into things. That's because even if you're an amazing martial artist, when you're weighing, you have 200 to 300 pounds worth of rubber, there ain't gonna be no ninja moves. So they had to improvise and say, okay, what can you do? And they go, I can do one roundhouse, maybe. And they do that one roundhouse. Then they go, okay, what else? Yeah, that's about it. Okay, symbols on the head. And so, but you see a lot of amazing action, and those are guys in those rubber suits trying to perform martial arts, and it's insane. But
I did like that they weren't just ass kickers. They struggled fighting, and then,
right.
Because I was explaining to my wife the conservation of ninjas theory in comic books. When there's 100 ninjas, you're just knocking them down. But when one ninja shows up, and it's funny because she recalled the first Daredevil season when there was that one ninja that basically killed him.
Right.
But he was kicking everybody's butts. That's the way that they ran away. Even Casey Jones ran away. Like I appreciated that. Like it was a little bit more funny to say realistic in a movie about human turtles, but it was But
no.
And poor April lost everything she owned.
Right.
Yeah, she lost that antique shop. She lost her apartment. I mean, she didn't lose the house upstate, but
right.
They threw a human being into a garbage truck and crushed him at the end.
You're right. It's funny. They said we can't go quite as dark. So in the comic book, Leonardo shoves his sword through Shredder. They said that's too much, but we can kick him off the top of a building and he plummets into the back of a trash truck and then crush him. Now
our TNZ sends me $2 in Shire money and says, don't see Teenage Mutant #2. It's as bad as Highlander 2.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, okay. He didn't die. He crawls out of garbage dump in the sequel. That's what I said to my wife. I said, the villains always survive. They give some backstory the next appearance.
Right. They say, they have this convoluted because, again, they didn't think they were getting a sequel to the movie, right? So they just did their one movie, and then they said, there's a sequel. The comics had the same problem where they really kill Shredder in that first issue. And then the cartoon, he's the main villain and all this stuff, because the toy makers and all that said, no, Shredder is that's perfect. And they're like, he's dead. And so
a lot of little touches that I liked. Like when Shredder first comes out, he's got that cape on. He's like Darth Vader.
Yeah. Perfect.
He might as well be Darth Vader come walking. And then the second in command, I can't remember his name. He slowly and takes a lot of time removes the cape over those razors.
Right.
They didn't need to show that. but they like that. That's one of the things I appreciated about the movie is they gave each character a little bit of time to breathe. And
right.
The fact that he just stood still while this other guy adjusted his cape, just so you could see that he has freaking knives on his shoulders.
Right.
This is the Shredder, guys.
Right.
And you better do what the Shredder says.
That guy's his character's name is Shredder, and he's in this outfit, and he commits to the bit. Like
Right.
everybody was committed, and not only do they have all the main characters get this beautiful setup, so their personality and understand their motivations. Even I think it's David that is the son of April's employer,
right?
And he joins the Foot Clan. Even he got where you understood who this kid was, right? He's kind of disillusioned. He's in.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about all the secondary characters. I'm glad you brought up because I would have forgotten. First off, they used a lot of shorthand in that movie, to convey a lot of information. April's boss had the douchebag haircut.
Right.
Right. He was just like right out of Central Casting. We need a douchebag. Okay, that's the douchebag, and he had the U-turn head, the douchebag glasses, and I'm glad by the end of the movie they humanized him and made him a little like he, you know what I mean. That was a nice touch. That again, not pandering to kids. Yeah. He was a strict dad, and it made me feel a little bit bad for him when he fired April. Like you started to realize there's a lot behind the scenes that we don't know. He was under pressure. Was he being violently threatened? Was the owner of the studio like you understood his reaction when he was gracious and good and begged forgiveness to his son? That he wasn't a bad person. And if he's not a bad person, there's stuff that we don't know. And that is excellent writing because it filled in the blanks.
Right.
Really well. And the other one was Dave himself. He was Dave, and then he was David or Davey. Through the whole movie, he had a Sid Vicious shirt on. Sid Vicious is dead for like 8 years at this point.
Right.
Like nobody's listened to the Sex Pistols, but it was just shorthand.
Right.
He's this redhead kid. He's got a punk rock T-shirt. He's got Sid Vicious, so therefore he's a troublemaking punk.
Right. Like you get to the point.
Yeah, he skipped right to the point. You knew all you needed to do because he wore a Sid Vicious shirt. I was laughing at that through the whole,
Oh, and the kind of head punk kid at the
Sam Rockwell.
Yeah. And you think, oh well, he plays. It's this minor throwaway role, but then when Casey Jones goes for and hits the Tito guy, I don't know what his name is, and he flies and crashes, and all the kids are like, they kind of realize they're on the wrong side of history or something. And when Sam Rockwell's character helps Shredder and stuff, right? It's like you got a goofy little puppet and it's all this absurdity, but like it hits hard that these kids are.
Sam Rockwell is an amazing actor. He really is.
Yeah, he's pretty damn good. And when he could elevate that role, you go, this kid's gonna go places, and in fact, he did. But
one of the things that made me laugh was I was like, I kind of didn't buy it, but I kind of did buy it, I liked it because I wanted to like it. But they show the kids' headquarters. Yeah. It's like, oh, this is what 12-year-old boys want. First off, there was only one girl that I noticed in the entire outfit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She was like but I see 12-year-old boys now. Like you were a 12-year-old boy, I was a 12-year-old boy. I joined a criminal organization and I get cigars and get to play poker.
Right.
Yeah, that's not what I want.
Yeah, they go the kids, and then they're handing out cartons of cigarettes, but there's like arcade machines and the kids are skateboarding. And what I found found that none of that's in the comic. That's completely for the movie. But that then you go and see Shredder and all the kids who have moved up. They're part officially of the Foot Clan, and the tone, there ain't no music, there isn't no, all of that is just to lure in kids.
Right.
But then when they're really in it, it's not fun no more, right? What's his name beating the hell? The second in command is all upset and beats the hell out of and everybody's getting disillusioned that, wait, we were lured in with, hey, you can smoke cigarettes and be hippie cool, and then come to find out this thing isn't what they thought it was. I found that so freaking fascinating that it's not in the source material, because the Foot Clan are never really explored at all in the comic. Shredder is trying to kill Splinter, and then the Ninja Turtles kill him, and that's the end. We don't get that, so they had to fill that in, and they had this really deep thing about this basically gang lure in kids with everything they could want, but in the Master Tetsu.
Yeah.
You know, that added again, that's a grit that you don't just have these ninjas. Where'd they come from? Don't worry about it, Chief. Where they say, no, this is a whole, he's recruiting these kids and training them. He's the evil side of Splinter, right? Where Splinter trains the Ninja Turtles, but he teaches them, don't fight unless you have to, all this. Where Shredder is training teenagers, but in, a very negative way.
And another thing, like a glaring omission in the movie, but it doesn't matter, is what was Shredder's plans?
Right.
What was his master goal? Like, they're stealing TVs,
right?
Recruiting 12-year-olds, giving them cigars, so they could have a Foot Clan to do what?
Be an evil organization. Yeah, he didn't have, like, there was no end game or explanation to why he was in New York.
Did he want to take over the United States? Did he want to make money? Was he just a control freak?
Right.
It does. Don't think about it too hard, but you didn't have to.
Right. And I think there is, with Ninja Turtles, definitely, Christopher Nolan, he explained this, where he goes, everybody says my Batman movies are realistic. He goes, they're not. It's the illusion of realism. My movies are just as fantastical as everyone else, but I give you enough that convince you that, I believe that. But he goes, none of this is possible.
Right.
But I give you enough.
All the police hide underground, and you see one scene of a guy giving like a packaged lunch. Here you go, guys. Like, everybody gets a sniff. Last guy gets a bite.
That's right. So he said, no, it's the illusion of, that's what filmmaking is about, the illusion of realism. But you can't do it realistically because there would not be a guy called Batman, right? That's the most unrealistic part. And the Ninja Turtles was like that, to where it give you this grit of a dirty, gang-infested New York that felt real, so that then when they drop in a ninja in 1990, why was there even a ninja there? But that's part of Ninja Turtles, to where, well, here's the perfect example. The opening of how they made you think this was possible. The opening to where his master is sitting there doing martial arts and the little rat's in there. I don't know how long rats live, but that was feudal Japan. But it's always been like that. That the origin of Splinter was that he was in feudal Japan, but then by the time he gets to New York, a little rat on a boat, it's now the 80s.
Right.
In the United States.
A long boat ride.
Right. Japan was not feudal Japan in the 1970s or 80s. But everything with ninjas, whether it's video games, comic books, or whatever, show a feudal Japan that's somehow in the 1900s. And that's not possible, but it's freaking cool.
Yeah.
And so, that's been one thing. And in later adaptions of Ninja Turtles,
Japan was still foreign at the time too. Like, that's another thing we take for granted. In 1990, there was no internet. Like, Japan really was the other side of the world.
Oh yeah.
Now Japan is a lot closer. we're seeing they got coin-operated machines that dispense panties, and it's not the typical place that it used
Now
to
we found out they're all a bunch of perverts.
Yeah, Japan. I wanted to show this. I've had this game for years because I'm a fan of board games, but this is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles board game, and it's his. You get 2 rule books. Like if you could be shredded, like you could be all the bad guys. So if you're the bad guys, you're like the dungeon master, and then you get the other rule book for the Ninja Turtles. But it's so cool. But I gotta show you. Like these are life tokens, the little pizzas. And then if you poison, they're gross. But look at these figures, these little miniatures. Of course, I didn't paint them, but I think. Oh no, this is the cat. I thought that was Shredder, but I think here's Shredder. But it's amazing. You could be all the turtles. You could be everybody. Oh, here's the turtle box. So here are the turtles. Of course they're green. Someday, I'm lying to you all when I say someday I'll paint them. But my favorite thing about this is each turtle has their own colored dice. So like Raphael has more fight symbols on his dice than anybody else. And Michelangelo has more ranged attack symbols than anybody. And I forget which one moves farther. And the brilliant thing about the game is 3 of the turtles, all except Raphael, because he's the loner, they get 5 dice. Raphael gets 3 dice. But whatever dice you put on so when you roll the dice, you get 3 rolls, and you take whatever's like skateboards allow you to move and blah 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 blah. You put the last die, the 2 dice at the end. So if I'm Michelangelo and you're Donatello and we're sitting next to each other, you could share my last dice and I could share your last dice. It's teamwork.
Yeah.
So you're like, dude, I didn't roll any movement. I needed a movement. Like, oh yeah, but I got 4. I want to re-roll. Don't re-roll them. Like it promotes this little team. And then the guy who plays Raphael is just sitting there. Whatever dice he has to deal with.
Right.
So much fun. It's so much fun. I just wanted to point that out because I got it's clobbering time in a couple of minutes. But it's so much fun that I bought the 2nd edition. And I still didn't like the Turtles, but I liked the game. And this has like Casey Jones, April O'Neil, Usagi Yojimbo. It has like, Rocksteady and Bebop and Kang. It has anybody who had anything to do with the oh man, this next box is super heavy. So if anybody wants to come over, I only play this game if I have 5 people. Because and of course I know the game, so I have to be the bad guy, but I'm only playing with 4 turtles, and it's a tactical miniatures game. But there you go. I just wanted to show that I even had the board game. Give me that board game. What was the Master Hobo wants the board? Well, come and play it. That's the I need people to play. I need 5 people to play. That'll be one of my stretch goals. Is we'll play a role playing game. Well, your Tonic Mo will come down. He'll be. You can't be Lily and Wop Wet Wet because then nobody else will get to do anything. They're too talented. But and then we'll play a game of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We'll all get colored bandanas. Get into the part.
I was going to do that, but like with everything, I keep forgetting. I was like, I need a colored bandana for this show. Yeah.
We got Georgina Floyd in the chat. What you did to Lord Raptor Jesus, you broke his heart, Georgina. You broke Lord Raptor Jesus's heart. But just, so there we go.
Oh, wait, I got to show my thing.
Oh, okay.
No, that's later. So
that's when we go private. Okay.
That's exclusively on my OnlyFans.
Yeah.
So here's my April O'Neil action figure. There's a lot of glare and stuff, but it's pretty freaking awesome. I have a lot of Ninja Turtles toys, and also I didn't end up needing it, but I got my volume 1 of Ninja Turtles. Now, I highly recommend, if you're going to read Ninja Turtles, to get their big volumes, because the originals are awesome because they're the originals, but they have notoriously bad print. Like a lot of mine are double printed. They're hard to read and stuff. They weren't great, but they reprinted them all with like modern paper and all these types of things, and it's super crisp and awesome. Um, I got both Cerebus and Ninja Turtles in these big old volumes so that I could reread them a little easier. And it took me forever to get Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #4. That one was really hard to get. And I think I finally got one. It might have been a second print, but I can't remember. But it took me forever to get #4. So
why is that one so hard?
Huh?
Why is that one difficult to find?
It was something wrong with the cover, and so they had to reprint it or something. So it's really hard to get a first print, and then they didn't even do that many prints of it. I want to say it's 4. It's the one with the green cover, and all the Ninja Turtles are standing there like prepared or whatever. And so there was some mix up with the cover, the print job, which every issue had some disaster of a print. And I think it might have been that the print came back and it was almost unusable. So they picked one by one, picked out the ones that were readable, and had to scrap the rest of them. So it was this real low print run or something of that sort. But they go for pretty high price for that later of an issue, because 1 and 2 and 3 are pretty top dollar, and then 4 kind of goes above 3, I think sometimes. 5 and on you can get for almost nothing. Last I checked when I was getting them, but the rest of them are pretty cheap. Until you get to Volume 2 is pretty cheap. That was Jim Lawson by himself in color. And then Volume 4 has some pricey ones because towards the end, ironically, because they didn't print many. But anyways,
yeah, but
that's my 2 cents.
But yeah, like I have a similar story with G.I. Joe, the original Marvel G.I. Joe comics. It was another series I just avoided like the plague. Not for any stubborn reasons, just I wanted my comic books. I wanted superhero comic books.
Right.
You know, like to me, my way of thinking is you could watch a war movie on TV or in the movies, and it's really well done. But up until just recently, you couldn't watch a superhero movie that was well done. So comics was the best medium. So when I looked at comics, it was for superheroes. You know what I mean? Nowadays, you could, if a superhero movie is well done, it could be just as good as a comic book. You know, sci-fi was exceeded by Star Wars. So, you know, comic books, I didn't really get sci-fi comic books because the movies surpassed them. So, but now I'm up to issue 3 of G.I. Joe, and I'm loving that. I'm just loving the morality behind the G.I. Joe comic book. You know, like the speech in issue #1 is, that would be the easy thing to do. But you join G.I. Joe, and we don't do the easy thing.
Right.
You know, we're going to save a life at the cost of our own lives if necessary, because that's what G.I. Joe does. If you want it easy, you shouldn't have joined G.I. And I love that speech, you know?
And I read a lot of the G.I. Joes. I wish. So IDW, I think, got the rights to G.I. Joe. They did some really bad comics, but they brought back in the guy who single-handedly wrote and drew that original series and had him start where he left off. So you can, once you've read all those original G.I. Joe comics, you can pick it back up where that creator left off.
Larry Hama, yeah.
Yeah. And
they have 2 series. One is Larry Hama's G.I. Joe.
Right.
The official G.I. Joe, and then one is whatever, you know, the alternate universe G.I. Joe that's always starting and restopping and, you know, whatever. I would count Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as superheroes.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And they have superheroes in that universe as the comic goes on, so it becomes increasingly more like a superhero universe.
For the sole reason is they're created by, they're mutants. They you know, they're turtles with superpowers. Their superpowers being, you know, rational thought, skills, stuff like that. If they were the teenage ninja humans, They wouldn't be superheroes. You know what I mean?
Surf ninjas.
Yeah, but
They don't count.
they're superheroes. They're street level superheroes. They're no different
Yeah.
than say Night Thrasher. You know,
Right.
Daredevil has legit superpowers. But then they had like telepathy with Shredder in the movie, at least. You know, they
Right.
you know.
Oh yeah,
So,
yes.
maybe there's stuff that I'll find out later on. I'm still a rookie when it comes to it. I know the movie and 2 comics. But I'm going to close this down now. This was a lot of fun. And at 8:30, I'm going to do It's Clobbering Time. We're going to talk about the gods of Warhammer and then the gods of Lovecraft. And I know nothing about Warhammer gods, so I'm hoping people show up. Otherwise, it's just going to be me talking about the Lovecraftian gods. So, and of course, everybody's welcome. And this is a lot of fun. John and Tonic, well, you know. So if you like me and Tonic Bowl, and why wouldn't you? We're charming, wonderful people. We're going to do this semi-regularly. You know, we'll find out something. Maybe if the chat recommends a movie or a comic,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Movie, we'll check it out.
And it's fun. It's fun talking about old movies too.
Right.
It's really the same thing. Honestly, new movies suck ass. So it might be cool to do more kind of like this.
Like you were talking. You talk. Have you watched this new movie? I'm like, no. No. You know. So yeah, like you know what would be a good one? Dark City.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, you know, tentatively we'll do Dark City next. How's that?
Yeah, I got the Blu-ray. I'll watch it again because I haven't watched it in about 20 years.
Yeah, I think I watched it like 4 or 5 years ago, but I'll watch it again. First off, there's any excuse to rewatch that movie. But anyway, Tonic and I and Oscar are hard at work now at Eddie is Doomed. Tonic is all caught up with all of his obligations, and we're going to do some Eddie is Doomed, and I couldn't be more happy. Thanks. So there you go. All right. I'm going to go. I got 2 minutes for my other show. Thanks a lot.
See you guys.